Hey everybody, Michelle is back. Just had me some breakfast, and before I start my day with whatever I got planned to do, which is always a lot of stuff. But anyway, my lips are really chapped, so you're gonna see a whole lot of. Sometimes you're gonna see all kind of stuff on my lips. It's because they're very chapped and dry and blah blah blah. So don't feel like she need to wipe her face, and you know how we do. Anyway, now what I'm about to start talking about right now. Okay, it's going to sound very, very crazy. Okay, it's going to sound like I'm delusional, and it's going to sound like that I've lost my mind. Sorry. Woo. That's why you can't take yourself so seriously. Because let me just say this: if you take yourself so seriously, and being so concerned about how people think what people think about you, what people say about you, yes, you can put yourself in an insane asylum or go get yourself medicated for no reason. Okay, so let's just bring it to that. So now, like I said, I'm getting ready to say some stuff that sounds kind of crazy, and I'm saying it for a reason because I know who's listening. Okay, and I'm not too concerned about it per se. But I'm gonna go back and say back in it might be a long video, but I want to get everything on record. That's all I want to do. For entertainment purposes only. Remember that. There is an opinion? Okay, cool. Let's get started. So, let me see. I'm trying to think of when. I think it was around I think it was October. Yeah, I think it was in the month of October 2022. That's when it all got ramped up. When I say got ramped up, honey, if you only knew. But anyway, let's continue. So it was back in October. Um, some weird things started happening. Okay, now, um, and let me just, and I'm gonna go. I'm just gonna say with some of the weird stuff. A lot of it is unconfirmed, but the thing is like I said, once you know who you are, why you are, and what you are, and you have a lot of confidence in that, and you put a lot of work in that. I put a lot of work in myself. Okay, and so in October, I started talking about modalities. So some people that have a strong visual. I think I've said this many a times in other videos as well. And so my point is, I'm very consistent, honey, very consistent. And usually people that have mental illness are not consistent. I'll keep that in mind. They're not speaking clearly and effectively in most cases because they're either medicated or they just don't have management of their thoughts. That's usually all the problems are with a lot of people that are suffering from depression and mental illness. They're just, in my opinion, they usually just do not know how to manage their thoughts. And sometimes those thoughts don't even belong to them. That's something to explore for psychiatrists and psychologists and those who work in that field. Okay? I'll come back to that. So back in October, I knew something strange started happening. I don't know what happened because I started saying things. I just was being freely. I was speaking free speech. I thought, okay, giving theories and opinions, which I thought most people would have realized mean not a goddamn thing. But boy, was I mistaken. So I'm giving my theories and opinions. I started talking about modalities. It's like some people have a strong visual, some have a strong feeling in their emotions, and some are auditory. Doot, 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 doot. Kind of crazy. Not just joking. Woo! All right. Auditory meaning that they're auditory. They usually are speakers, talkers, singers. They respond to sound, and people that respond to sounds uh, have a very powerful and reliable source of uh, how they respond to the world, okay, and how they represent themselves in the world, because they can hear, they usually, can hear, or they're supposed to. But the problem with most of them is that all you hear is their voice, and they are not allowing other information to come in, or they're not paying attention to what they hear and the sounds and this and that and the other. All right, I went into that. And then, of course, I talked about the people that are in their feelings, how they can be violent and how they can just get so out of control in their feelings. And usually narcissistic people are in their feelings. Narcissistic people usually operate from their feelings. And that's why they get so offended easily. They get offended easily, and then they become violent. Okay? All right. And then I said the visuals. Visuals are usually, they can be delusional. Okay? They can be, thinking they're the messiahs, thinking they are this and that and the other. They think they're so high advanced, and they're delusional, and they cannot, because people that are visual, they can see contradictions. They can pick up contradictions. That's their strength, but it can be easily manipulated, especially if you're not in reality. If you're not grounded in reality, visual people can be the most manipulated. Okay, and I'll tell you why. And like I said, they can see the contradictions. They can see contradictions, and so that's why their behavior is always usually inappropriate. They have inappropriate behavior. In most cases, it's not intentional per se. It's just if they're not properly handling their thoughts, they're not properly discerning the contradictions, and on top of that, if they're medicated. And usually, and medication can be used to manipulate people that have mental illness. Do not be in denial about that. Okay? If you're taking some type of psychotic medication, you can and possibly are being manipulated. Okay? And when I say manipulated, with your behaviors and actions. Okay? And the thing about people that are behaving inappropriately, there are always early signs of that. So anybody that care about that person can immediately pick up the signs of when this person is about to have an episode. Because I'm going to be real honest with you, my dad was great with that when it came to my mom. Okay, my dad started picking up on that. I knew that from early on as a young girl, because I guess I was just always highly sensitive. I had a high sensory of stuff, and I knew when something was about to happen. And like I said, my visuals, and I was like, and so I started behaving responding accordingly when I thought, okay, because people could say anything, but I always picked up what their eyes were doing and where their eyes were. Okay, and you're talking to me, supposedly talking to me, but you're talking to my breast. Okay, so let's be clear and effective here. So my mom, there was always something about my mom's personality when we knew, at least I knew, and I think my dad did start picking it up, that okay, she's about to have an episode. And what used to piss me off about him, he would leave and go to the bar and leave us there with my mom carrying on and having her episodes. But she wasn't directed. She was arguing and carrying on to herself, but we was just there listening. She didn't necessarily target us per se. At one point, she started targeting me, and I think because I looked like my dad to her. So I think some of her anger was more towards him, because he always would run away when she would get into those episodes. And so I got pissed off with him about that. And then I started at some point, that's when he and I started having some battles when I moved back in with them the second time. When I moved back in the house with my parents the second time, that's when I saw my mom's perspective of how my dad behaves as well, and his inappropriate behavior as well. I'll explain that in a minute. Because we will always think that there was a problem with my mom, which there were. and how she was carrying on and how she would be inappropriate at times around people and how she would get all upset. She was always in a manic state of, her personality was manic. She was high and then she was low. And I told you she started having early stages of depression. I can remember her acting like, in her early 40s when I was the last one to leave the house. I noticed that, okay? And that she'll be high, low, and then she'll go into deep, dark depression. Wouldn't get out of bed. But like I said, at a certain point, I had to get out on my own, and I left that for my dad to work out with. He was married to her, and he said that he would be there for her through what's that, thick and thin, sickness and in health, to death, do that, blah, 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 all this stuff. That's why you ought to write your own vows. I think everybody should write their own vows, but you don't necessarily have to share that with everybody either. So anyway, I noticed my mom had some fluctuations in her personality very young, because I was seeing it. I could see something. There was something about her eyes that would change, that I knew, okay, something's about to happen here. So I kind of got out of the way. Oh, but like I said, my dad knew, and like I said, we had a blowout the second time. When I moved out the second time, because I thought he was abandoning her when she was getting into these manic depressive episodes, instead of just being there and supporting her, right? And so he and I started getting into it, because I didn't like how he was treating her, and so it just became. At first, everybody was saying it was my mom. But then when I moved in there the second time with my parents, it was him. Shit. I think it was more so him because of his drinking than her, because she had stopped drinking. You get me? So he and I had this blowout. And I said, look, when I left that second time out, I said, I'm not going to be contacting you guys for no reason whatsoever, and it's going to be my choice when I decide to reach out to you again. Okay, and it was some years. I think it was probably 2 years that I didn't say a word to them or anybody in the family, because I had to get back on my feet and decide what I was going to do, and blah 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 blah. And things got rough. Okay, around the year of 2000. I think it was 2005 to about 2009. It was rough. Okay, around 2008 though, I saw things going. I saw my life taking a turn for the best. Actually, things were looking up as they were around 2008, and then 2009. That's when in 2009. That's when I felt the veil. Because you're gonna go through experiences in life. So and I saw everything lifting, and I could see clearly now, basically. In other words, I knew that I was becoming healthy in my thoughts. I was healthy in my behavior. I was becoming a healthy woman, and I felt it. Okay, so like I said, a lot of things happen unconsciously. You have no idea that you're gonna wake up the next morning or the next day and realize you're living in paradise. Okay, because where I was necessarily not paradise for most people, but I knew that it was a paradise because I felt it inside of me. I felt great inside. But I knew I had a lot more work to do, and I did. I ran into some psychopaths still, but I recognized it right away, and I was able to respond to it accordingly and not allow it to penetrate into my feelings, per se. I think during the time after I left my parents' house, for the second time and started, and what I was going to do was go ahead. I was going to go ahead. I told you I was going to head west. I was heading west. I was going to get on I-10. I think it was around 2005 and go west. But then the storm came through. I think it was Katrina. So I said, well, let me just hold off on going west, and I'm going to go places that I want to be for right now, to like kind of relax and enjoy the moment, per se, because I had enough money saved up to do that. So I decided to go 95 south and ended up where I was. But like I said, it was difficult. But I didn't feel. See, the reason I didn't feel necessarily there was a panic per se, because I knew I can go back to my parents' house if I had to. I knew that, but I didn't. If I said I wasn't going to, if I usually I walk the talk. I said to him, my dad, because my mom had already been, she already had her mental stuff seep into her, and so she was basically, and that's around the time she said to me about thoughts. She says, Michelle, don't believe all your thoughts. That's when I knew what. I thought that was very profound when she said that to me. She said, sometimes your thoughts can she said something about the thoughts, and she says, Michelle, don't always believe what you're thinking. Do not believe what you are thinking. And this was after she had a stroke too. Okay, so sometimes people after strokes, they have these kind of revelations of something going on. And I think so her stroke was in her right hand. So that's on the left hemisphere usually. And so on the left hemisphere, there's I think more in intuitive abilities on the left hemisphere. I don't know. I'll look it up again. So and I was like, wow, that was very profound for her to say that. In the midst of all that she's going through, and she was able to say that to me. So you're gonna go through things. That's my point. You're gonna have experiences, and you need to have experiences. Otherwise, what is the purpose of living? To not get your hands dirty and being afraid, like worrying about, oh no, I don't, always just trying to push away these type of experiences, which can be adversity, struggle, challenges, everything. So I'm not gonna lie to you. When I was in that South Florida area, I was going through a lot. I was almost on the brink of homelessness. So many things were going on. I think I told you about that hurricane that came through that knocked out everything. And everything was black. Darkness. And it was beautiful. Beautiful. All I saw was stars. I couldn't hear nothing. There was nothing. You didn't hear air conditioners. Nobody was in their right mind to be traveling, even though some people were. I mean, because there was no gas. You couldn't get no gas, nothing. Because in that time, they did not have generators, for their pumps. And so when the power went out. There was no gas. So even through all of that, I had some great ass moments. I'm telling you. And it was nature related. It was something about the palm trees, something about the trees, something about the darkness and the sky and the moon and the stars. And then at that time when that hurricane came through, when I was there, I think it was Wilma. I can remember that night was so cool. It was like cool and fresh. It was like a brand new world or something. It was so amazing. Even though, we were sitting up in there, no power. I was in an extended stay at that time as well. No power and this and that and the other. And so I'm sitting there, like I said, I barely had any gas in my car because I think I ran out of gas. And so I had to, how did I get home? I'm not even sure how I got home. Let me just tell you, it was a lot of shit going on. But there were some of the greatest moments, though, that I can remember. And that's what I choose to focus on. In the midst of all of that, there were some great moments. Because, for the large part of the time when I was there, especially from 2005 to 2009, I had no television. Because you know what? I couldn't afford one. And, all right, so you get me. I had to move into an area where it was, they considered it the hood. But it was like 5 or 10 minutes in walking distance from the substation, where I work. Blah. But yeah, and so all I had was internet service. So I did a lot of things on the internet. And this was before, even though, this was, between 2005 and I think like 2010, everything was relatively, low risk. Let's put it that way. There was still risk by dealing with online, but it was a bit low risk. I felt, And I felt like the people that I was seeing, they were real people at that time. And they were. I mean, the people that I saw. And then some of them I eventually met up with and saw them face to face. And yes, they were genuinely real people. And if I saw people on certain websites, certain groups, those people were genuinely real people. Okay, despite everything else, they were real, but they were going into the area of AI. They were, all this, and this is around the time where everybody was marketing and pushing the pyramid marketing. That was the thing, the pyramid marketing, and everybody was in it. It was a scam. Bernie Madoff, he managed to. He claimed that he started this all back in the 80s, and that's possible. But it only was affecting certain income levels of people. Certain people at the height of the pyramid, right? He was only focusing and worrying about the people at the height of the pyramid. And then, as time went on, it started trickling down, just like everything else. If you pay attention, it'll start hovering in the affluency of the communities, but then at some point they throw out the leftovers, just like they used to do with black people in black cultures. These white people would they would enjoy a certain part of a pig, and guess what they used to throw out to the black people in black culture, and that's how chitlins. Okay, so it's always the same kind of concept of things, and that's how we always operate, and that's why a lot of people say, well, don't reinvent the wheel. Well, if we knew better, if we knew what we know now, we would have done everything in our power to recreate the wheel, reinvent the wheel, but we did not. So here we are, facing each other. So, like I said, between 2005, 2010-ish, everything was relatively low risk, but the risks were accelerating fast. I told you, everything is starting to move faster. Stuff that should have happened a million years in the future is starting to come back and happening more closer to now than in the future. Blah, blah, blah. Pole shifts going on, climate change, overpopulation, everything is actually speeding up. Okay, because if you think about 2005 until now, and I still know people that I met, and we still have a connection from people I met from 2010 back. Some of them, not all of them. And you know who you are. So I'm going to say that if you establish a relationship with someone in 2010 and back, chances are you may still be having a relationship with that person, as long as they were not a psychopath, sociopath, narcissistic, of course. Right? I keep saying that. If you ever go back to them, if you come out of it alive, that will be, okay, you only get so many chances. If you want to keep putting your life on the line, going back to a narcissistic, that's what you're doing. You're just putting your life on the line. And that's going to be your choice. You can't blame the narcissistic if you keep going back to them, all right, after you left them and had people come in and help you and rescue you from it. Because usually that's what usually has to happen, unfortunately, when you get involved with a narcissistic, sociopath, narcissistic, psychopath, or, you have to be rescued from them. Okay, sometimes it's next to impossible to leave unless you get rescued. All right, so if you had in a relationship 2010 back, then those are probably good relationships and probably genuine relationships and real, whether you saw these people physically or not. Your experiences with them were real experiences. Now, fast forward, now we got AI, we got all this other technology that's taken over the realness of people. The genuineness of people, because people are excited about being cloned, believe it or not. A lot of people are excited about androids, believe it or not understanding what those technologies can do and how they are going to eventually take over you, the person, the people that rely so heavily on advancing of technology or the convenience of technology. It's going to come back and haunt you. Okay, they're going to be telling you what to do instead of you telling them. Now you can tell them how to, lower the volume, raise the volume. It's so, it's it's like comedy, and it's like a science fiction nightmare at the same time. That you can, and asking these devices questions. What the hell did anyone expect from all of that? Honestly, that you could ask a device instead of a human being, instead of going to a human being, you would rather talk to a device and tell this device your secrets, tell this device your fantasies, tell this device this and that and the other. You'd rather do that. Or be in a simulation of stuff, being simulated as if you are in your paradise, via technology, instead of you individually visualizing it yourself on your own via meditation or visualizing. You rather have some type of simulated device, be created, and for you to simulate and pretend you're living in paradise, sitting on your couch. A lot of people had rather do that than actually go out and live in reality of a paradise. They'd rather sitting on their couch and do that. Well, it's all here, everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, it is here. Okay. I think it started well back before we knew, like I said, but it wasn't shared with the general population. Now the general population is, because the people in these influency positions, the pyramids, they were creating this stuff just to, and these people worrying about being replaced. These usually feminine, straight males are worried about being replaced, and they don't realize that they helped to create it. Number one, they help to keep themselves. They help to cause themselves to be replaced because they were usually playing online all day, playing video games all day, simulation, fantasizing, instead of actually getting out into humanity and interacting with people and human beings. They rather interact with their computers and their gaming devices. So what have we done? The damage has been done. And so, like I said, in October, I knew something was going on with my technology. Like I said, when I got in this particular group, running my mouth, having a good time, and it was something I knew I had to start talking somewhere. I knew if I talked on my own page, it could have been just erased and deleted and hacked, which it had been. That has happened several times to some of my social media pages, where people were hack into it and pretend they were me and then start saying stuff to people, and people thought I said it and blah blah blah. So I had to go back and apologize. I talked about that already. All right, October 2022. I started posting videos in a particular group saying certain things, and my intentions was to say stuff, but be able to say it where I would have a big audience listening to me. Okay, because like I said, if it was my page, my page could have been buried into the sea of forgetfulness, where you don't even know, thrown into an abyss and thrown into a whirlpool where nobody would even know I was online. They can do that. But when I got in the group, they didn't expect that to happen. So of course they're gonna guard against it now. Trust me. I got in there and I started talking, honey. I started saying things that were truthful. Okay, that was saying some truthful things. But I made it clear that I made it clear that they were theories and opinions for entertainment purposes only. But that didn't matter. That did not matter. And doesn't matter to today. There's no such thing as free speech coming from certain people, especially a black female. Okay, and a lot of people will say, "Oh, you're being this, you're being that." Those people don't have no experience, and I've already have determined that. And so I'm not gonna go back and forth with people that have no experience. Okay, you can intellectualize everything you want, and that's usually what's happening with a lot of talking head intellectuals. They are trying to intellectualize experiences, and so that they don't have to participate in experiences and get their hands dirty. And the only way you can participate in experiences is to be dealing with human beings face to face, whether it's a negative encounter or a positive encounter. Okay, whether it's a dangerous encounter or whether it's a friendly encounter, you need to be dealing with human beings and interacting and serving human beings, not computers and not gaming devices. But again, I'm not going to go back and forth with people that are not experienced, because I can tell by their I can sense that and pick that up. So what I did when I was talking about these modalities, I kept talking about my vision, that I'm a visual person. And I noticed my visual stuff online was being tampered with. I know that. Come on now. I knew that there was kind of visual stimulation going on when I was in certain groups or when I would be surfing online. Now that can sound crazy to people, and that's fine. I'm not gonna dispute that. Okay, I'm not gonna argue about it. You can have that opinion that this bitch crazy. What the fuck she talking about? Okay, good, have it. If that's what you want to have it. And I even told you, that I have a weird personality. As long as I'm coughing, I'm good. Remember that. If someone's coughing, they're fine. They're not choking. But so I kept saying visual. So I know I was being visually stimulated when I was in this particular group, and and for some reason I can't get back in it. But yet I'm told that I'm still a member, but I can't get back in the group. But I really don't want to be honest. I'm just playing. I don't need to be a part of that anymore. The damage has been done in that regard as well. I don't know what the intentions were or how I became the guinea pig. I became a guinea pig, I felt like. But, I don't let things penetrate into my feelings. So I didn't take it personal. Did I look like a fool sometimes? Oh, I'm sure I did. Was I looking like a clown sometimes? Yeah, sure I was. But I was having just as much fun as well as, and also putting out information at the same time. Sometimes you have to be creative. You have to be creative and take your moments when you have those moments. Okay. And because I had my ego put to the side, I was able to take whatever was coming towards me and what was done to me. I got upset sometimes. I got upset at one point. I'm thinking, why? But now I understand why. And I'm not going to share too much about why yet. Or other theories and opinion. Because do I have plenty of them. Because I do want to research stuff and educate myself before I start saying things too. So anytime I'm saying things to people, on wherever I'm saying it, I've researched it and I got some information on it. So it's not a theory. It's a theory and opinion. Yes, it's still theories and opinions, but they're theories and opinions that require proper places of discussion. And most of those proper places of discussions are not online. You have to be face to face with these people and talk to them like human beings. Okay, and not androids and avatars and clones, because that's what we've created unsuspectedly, while we were unconsciously venturing out and manipulating people in something. Look, I'm not saying everybody, but so many people in this marketing field are manipulators. Not everybody, of course. And, you shouldn't be offended if you know that you're not. And I said that if you are a righteous person and your whole intentions is to help people, to love people, you're fine. Okay, but you need to make sure you're thinking for yourself as well. And if you happen to get unsuspectingly sucked into fraud and you didn't know you were involved in fraud, okay, you're a victim, but you have to prove that. Once you realize that you were involved in some type of fraudulent activity and you did not get out of it when you knew you were involved in fraud and you still didn't get out of it, you're complicit, okay? Especially if you knew it was fraud. Okay, so in other words, once you're woke, you're woke. You can't go back to sleep. Okay, once you're conscious, you can go unconscious, but the consequences you will still bear the consequences. All right. So some people can say, well, some people can see things and try to unsee them. Okay, fine. It doesn't work. Some people hear stuff and try to say they didn't hear it. Doesn't work. Same with everything else. So I knew I was being manipulated with visual stuff, visual stimulation. I know it. The visual that some pictures of people were probably not there, not really them, but I knew them from before all this technology took place. So I know that some aspects of them were real, and other parts of them were not. Everything else is probably fabricated and made up. I don't know. Okay, and that's irrelevant. I still know what I saw, and like I said, you can't change your eyes. You can change everything else. You can't change your eyes, but you possibly can now with this advancement of technology, with the deep fakes and, like I said, and everything else going on, the AI more specifically and especially. I mean, the AIs had already cloned because I was involved. Not involved, but when I was doing this marketing thing, I had an avatar too, an avatar of myself, but I didn't use it. But guess what? That company probably did. I decided I didn't want to use it. It had my voice. It had my face. It had my face. Had my voice. But I can program that voice and face to say stuff that I didn't even say. Okay, that was part of it. That was the part of that building of these avatars, which I knew about. All right, but I didn't want to use it. I was becoming disgruntled by all these marketing, because they were marketing schemes. They weren't marketing techniques. These were actual schemes. So if for me to stay in that kind of field, to stay in that type of situation, and I knew what it was, then I was becoming complicit. So I got out of it. I took my books off the market. I thought I did, but again, I know I got a message from somebody, I can't remember where one of my books was the contents of it was stolen, but they're using it over in another country that I would not have even known. Because I'm in America, say it was happening in China, I wouldn't even know it. Because what? I'm not in China. I don't have no access to their content of services they're doing over there. None of us do. But I got word that, one of my books was stolen and being used over there and twerked and tweaked, because I had copyrights on all that stuff. But once the copyrights run out, guess what? All right. So my books were taken off the market, but it doesn't mean that my books were not being sold or the content stolen and sold and twerked and spun, and they're across the country being sold and being profited off of. All right, that's what happens, or vice versa. Okay, because I have no idea what's happening in China. I have no idea what's happening in Africa. I have no idea what's happening. Blah blah blah. Dubai. You can go on and on and on. Australia. All of these major places of travel. So, what I do have is proof. All the thing I have proof of is that I self-published them at a certain time. So that may save me or protect me. Who knows? All right, because these books, like my books that I've written, I wrote these in 2002 or 2003. I can't even remember. Published them in 2012 or 13. Don't even remember. All right, so I have a trail that content belonged to me. But again, it could be spun and go and be thrown on to the other side of the country and sold and profited and no one would know a goddamn thing about it because I was doing it independently. Okay, and the independent people, independent creative people being manipulated, and I'm gonna talk about that at another time. So I'm going to be bringing out a lot of stuff, kind of ramping things up, because before you know it, this house is going to be empty. I won't sell everything. I'm not selling everything. I'm basically giving away everything that I can in here, and take certain things to appropriate places to be disposed of properly. I'm gonna start doing a little bit of traveling here or there, and wherever I feel the need to be, that's where I'm going to be. That's where I'm going to be. And so I'm going to see it as an adventure. Okay, and with everything else going on into the world, see it as an adventure. Get my nonprofit going, hopefully to assist in some kind of way with my nonprofit as well, expanding of consciousness and reshaping, recreating cultures, more specifically Black culture, to unveil the brilliancy, the magnificent contributions Black culture has on the planet, okay, and not being properly represented, and always making it seem as though there's that all of us just want to be repaid, or it's just always a misunderstanding and miscommunications, and it's intentional. So I appreciate anybody that took the time to listen to this. There's more to come, baby. Let me tell you, more to come, more to come. I got more to say, more to do, contribute and teach and help and listen and learn as well. And it's all based on universal love. It's universal love. It's why I do what I do, and why others like myself are doing what we're doing. It's about universal love. It's about loving human beings and not technology. Okay? I do not love technology. I love human beings. Okay? And that's who I want to be in touch with. Again, we all have been manipulated online. I know that I was. I knew that I was targeted for a specific reason, and I was manipulated online, and this and that and the other took place. Okay, it'll be denied, and I, in so many ways, so be it. Let it be denied. But actions and behaviors don't lie. Cause and effect don't lie. Reaping what you have sown don't lie. Okay, and if you consider there's no such thing as a coincidence, there's no such thing as chance, and that there is a boomerang, and as long as everything is logical, rational, and reasonable, okay, and you're thinking for yourself, okay, and you're grounded in reality, okay, you're ahead of the game, believe it or not. So I want to send peace and love, and trust me, I'll be back.